Hello and welcome to Scale and Secure Your Backups with the Veeam Data Cloud. Today's webinar is sponsored by Veeam and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I am with Actual Tech Media, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this special event today. But first, I do need to cover some housekeeping items with you. And the first thing I want to let you know is that we want your questions. Just drop them in the questions box in your webinar control panel. We're going to have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation to dive into your questions. So keep them coming throughout the presentation today. Now that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. If something goes wrong, you can't see or hear something, give your browser a quick refresh. And if that doesn't work, well, try it again. Sometimes it takes a couple of refreshes. If that doesn't work, then get a hold of us and we will hop on and help you out immediately with any other problems that you might have. Okay, next, take a look at the handout section, which is right next to that questions tab. There's some valuable stuff in there, including two great Veeam resources. And they are the 2024 Trends Report, something everyone looks forward to, and a PDF all about the Veeam Data Cloud. Those downloads are free and available right now. So I strongly encourage you to look those over and get them while they're hot. Now, in the handout section, you'll also find a link to the ATM Decisions Group, which is a panel of IT decision makers that get access to more in-depth events and other opportunities. In the handout section, it shows you how to apply for that group. You'll also find a link to the ATM Events Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events just like this one. And next, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Scroll to the bottom and you'll find the link with all the boring details right there. And finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenter. To encourage the questions, as I mentioned before, we also have come up with a special additional prize for you, and that's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question that comes in today. So what's going to happen is at the end of the session, we're going to gather all those questions that came in, take a look at them, pick out the best one, and then contact that prize winner to get them $50. And with that, folks, let's get to the main event. What do you say? I'm excited about getting started and hearing from Corinne Bessette, Global Technologist of Product Strategy with Veeam, who is going to enlighten us on some really important stuff. It's always a pleasure to have Corinne with us. She is such an energetic speaker and has great information. So cannot wait to hear what she has to say. Corinne is here and ready to go. So I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you, Keith. It is always a pleasure getting to be on here. We always get fantastic questions, and I'm really excited to get into the content that we have here. So as Keith mentioned, it's scale and secure your backups with Veeam Data Cloud. Well, before we go into all of that, I like to highlight that we have a very close relationship with Microsoft. We are one of their gold partners and Microsoft Teams certified. Now, this is certified in their export and backup API, and we were the first ones to publish being certified through their program. We also have millions of users backed up, as well as decades of connection with the Microsoft ecosystem from your on-premises types of machines like Hyper-V and Windows, all the way up to the SaaS products and IaaS with Azure. Many of these products integrate into our on-premises versions of the product, but also our cloud-only editions of the product, so you can protect in a way that makes sense to your environment. Now, with the relationship of any cloud provider, there's always a shared responsibility. The shared responsibility dictates what you are responsible for in your relationship with that cloud provider and what the provider is responsible in that relationship. Now, this can get kind of confusing when you're moving between platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service, because each of these have different responsibility zones. But in this particular case, we'll be talking mostly about the Microsoft 365 environment, which would be their software as a service model. Now, this is a breakdown of their hierarchy for what Microsoft is responsible in that relationship. So they're responsible for things like the infrastructure, the uptime, having a recycling bin in place, the physical, the logical, all of those areas, all the way up until that application layer where you're putting the users and spinning up those SharePoint sites. Now, where this starts to have a break is they have an access server available for you to log on to, but securing the permissions around that access server, meaning your users, your service accounts, or any other access method that you have into your environment, if anything comes through the front door and accesses that underlying data through that front door, it is your responsibility for the manipulation of that data, whether for better or for worse. So, if any bad actors do happen to come through the front door and there's a loss of data due to those malicious actors, or of course, we still have users that tend to lose data, myself included, I have lost more than one thing that I've needed to have recovered over periods of time. And that's where this responsibility becomes the customer side of the relationship. And that's what we really focus around when we're talking about the Veeam backup products as well as the Veeam Data Cloud. Now, as we mentioned, we attach those statistic reports in the handout section, what we're just seeing here on the screen, but to paint a picture of the vulnerability to that data and the idea, does this really happen? Do people really lose data? The answer is yes. So 80% of vulnerabilities discovered in the Microsoft 365 data, meaning that this was a primary attack zone. And I would say this largely contributes to the adoption and mass adoption inside of environments. And if there's a way to gain any type of data from a corporation, there's always going to be a way to break in that door. And you continuously have to iterate to keep up. It's really not a matter of if you'll be attacked here, it's when you'll be attacked here. And that's where we get to the second statistic here. Through our ransomware protection report, we surveyed out there saying, hey, have you actually had any type of data loss in your SaaS applications in the last 12 months? 53% of people came back saying that they had actually lost data. And we have further statistics saying that they've lost multiple sets of data that were unrecoverable from these types of environments due to either the retention policies that were in place or malicious actors going a step deeper in deleting second stage recycling bins that didn't have additional protections on them. And an additional on top of that, ones that were able to recover, in many cases, were only able to recover about 25% of that data. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never worked for a business that I could walk up into and say, hey, I'm here, I'm going to help you recover your data, but you can only have a quarter of it. And I'm sorry, you don't get to choose which quarter of that data that you're able to recover, just you're going to lose about 75%. You really can't expect a business to continue after an incident like that. If you ever have issues getting money from upper management, I highly recommend checking out any of these reports. It puts it into a quantifiable statistic so that your CISOs and everyone else can take a look at, yes, this is a real risk factor and we need to protect it now because it's going to cost us more later if we don't. Now, backup as a service. We've covered infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. But there's all kinds of as a services out there. They have the desktops as a service, DR as a service, meaning your disaster recovery as a service. But when it comes to backup as a service, this breaks down what you expect that responsibility model to break down at. So we cover all of the underlying components, so you don't have to worry about your on-premises footprint whenever dealing with the Microsoft 365 data. You don't have to worry about networking operations. So if you have a massive amount of data generated in the Microsoft Teams or SharePoint or OneDrive side, you do not have to worry about that traffic coming back down to your on-premises environment for any type of data retention reasons or even the maintenance cycles of when that needs to be taken care of. Additionally, you don't have to worry about software updates, patches, and everything that comes with all of the fun of downtimes of servers and iteration cycles of that, or even just knowing when new software comes out. That's what a managed service delivers. That way, the only thing that you have to worry about is making sure you have a backup created, which there are definitely all inclusive backup options that just say backup everything. I don't want to worry about it. I just want to know it's there when I need it. And then restore. So once you've backed up the data, making sure that you have a way to restore it or giving out delegated rights to restore operators is also an option to be able to restore their own data, groups of data, or whatever might be the best case for your organization. Last is all about e-discovery. Now, e-discovery is a fancy way of saying I'm handing over information in a court case. Now, the way that you gather that information and send it over can vary. Now, if you're working with the Microsoft 365 environment, they do have a couple of options there with the context search. So if you have below an E5 license, that's generally what you'll be using. And then they have the e-discovery process. These can take some time. Every time I kick off an e-discovery process, I usually go get lunch and come back and can still have a cup of coffee before that's finished. When you have an index process through a backup software, you're generally able to get a faster, high level recovery of all of the items that you may need to generate for that report. And you don't need any additional licensing in the Microsoft 365 side or pay for that additional storage on the Microsoft 365 side. Now, taking a modern look at data protection, and we'll have a demo, or I will have a demo here of you in this product coming up, but just pointing out what we really focused on when building this product. First of all, we wanted to make sure it was easy. One of the things Veeam has done time and time again is made the software as easy as possible to pick up and use, even if you're not an application administrator. And we took that very seriously moving over to the cloud side because we didn't want someone to have to take in a tremendous amount of time to learn how to do this. Also, making it easy. You can have your backup jobs created in, I would say, less than 10 minutes. Maybe if you're deploying the application group for the backup to start with, you've reached that 10-minute mark. But the click through of creating a backup job, which we'll take a look at, is in minutes. You also don't have to worry about whether or not you have an explosion of data overnight. With ours, we've made it a single model where you have a price per user per month, and that's it. You don't have to worry about the storage, how much storage you are consuming in these cases. And last, we've had a huge push over the last few years for security. We can integrate into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem and tap into their multi-factor authentication, and it has built-in encryption on this model. And that's what we offer when we're introducing the Veeam Data Cloud. Veeam Data Cloud is actually comprised of two of Microsoft's offerings. We'll be taking a deeper look at the Microsoft 365 side, of course. But we also work with Microsoft Azure for your IaaS and PaaS instances to be able to back those up as well. Now, these are more of those same bullets that we were talking about earlier, making sure it's the modern, secure, but also making sure that everything is included. From this one window, I can see my backups, I can see my search, as well as all of my restore options for all of the applications that are protected all in one. And we're going to hop right in here to take a look at that interface. All right, and we should be able to see the screen here. This is probably one of my favorite screens coming into our product just because I like a good coffee window. I like coming in, being able to see if my jobs have completed, what my retention looks like, and what type of consumption and protection is being offered right off the bat. And it's all in nice big bar charts. If anything was wrong, I would know it immediately just from the center thing saying, hey, you don't have any protected users. Diving a little deeper into some of these statistics offer you some things outside of the Veeam ecosystem as well. Over here on the left-hand side, we actually have the Microsoft 365 users, and it'll show you who has been inactive out of all of those active users. Now, this is, of course, a development environment, so a lot of these users don't get logged into on a regular basis. But if you had a fairly high count of users that were licensed through Microsoft 365, you are still paying for users that are not logging in and utilizing the resources. So, if nothing else, and you're not backing up your Microsoft 365 environment, I like having this just for a quick check of what's going on inside of your Microsoft 365 environment. Another great statistic is over here on the right hand side with the Microsoft 365 storage. This will tell you across the board for all of the users who is consuming the most amount of storage, as well as what your total storage is for or total consumed storage in that environment, which is a good high level look of, hey, could I be consolidating this? Maybe we talk to whoever the top here and ask them, hey, are you using your personal OneDrives for something that should be allocated to a SharePoint site or a shared SharePoint site? And being able to train those users to more efficiently share data to their team or colleagues or whatever the purpose for the overconsumption of that data is. Next, we have our ability to come down here and immediately click for restores. We'll also have that here on the left-hand side. But before we get that far, we also have this nice look of who is restoring what or creating what inside of our environment. You can see all of these logs within details if you click this button here, but even just looking high level, I can see that I've logged in and did a restore of a SharePoint object. This one even tells me the name of the item that was restored and which tool was used. Let's go ahead and create a job. So when creating a job, you have two options. You can either back up your entire organization in one go, meaning that all objects will be shared in that same instant, in that same backup with that same backup policy. And your other option is to granularly select items, and the granular selection of these items will allow you to say policies for C-level executives get one option versus say the lower level or possibly temporary employees you want to have a lower SLA on. And this could all vary within your organization. And give me just one moment here. We'll click through with a walnut demo for a couple other options in the system. And let me know when you're able to see the screen on this one. You should be able to see the screen on this one, and this is actually our Walnut demo experience. This allows you to walk through all of the steps of the console on your own place without even installing anything here. And as you can see, we can walk through and create a new backup here. All you need to do is place a name as well as a description. Name is necessary, description is optional, but it's highly recommended to have that description there. Then you can select whether or not you want to back up your entire organization, or if you're just going to select the following objects. And we can see when we get the following objects, we have this option for a CSV file. And then you can select from that CSV file which users, what applications you would like to back up. You can manually select them from the rest of your organization as well. Now here's where it gets interesting. Whenever you're creating a schedule option, if you're not doing the entire organization, you could granularly define whether or not you're going to back up every day or down to periodically within hours if you have a higher priority data or somewhere that changes much more frequently and you want a better tracking of those points. And as you can see, they have the job here, and you can still have your full organization up at the top. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at doing a restore process in our search and find. And here we have our search and find capabilities. You'll find it here on the left-hand side in the console, and you can select any one of the OneDrive, SharePoints, or Microsoft Teams. Once you've selected those items, you can create any criteria that makes sense for that cycle. So if you need to get all emails sent from Jill in the office between X date and X date, you'll be able to easily and cleanly get those without needing to go through separate prompts or more waiting in order to find all of that data. This is a quick process. Once you've added an item to the list, you can do whether it contains or if it's an exact condition that must be met in order to get that data back for an e-discovery or search type of process. Next, let's take a look at the restores. Now, here in the restores, you have your Outlook, your OneDrive, your SharePoint, and your Microsoft Teams. You can filter the names of any of those here on the left-hand side. As you can see, we found Abby, and we can restore the mailbox or any item within that mailbox that we may want to restore. Additional interesting is we can restore to the original location, new locations within that box, or we can download locally to a computer if we need to manually hand over that file to the end user. And this looks very similar for the SharePoint side, where you can filter any one of these sites. Once you found the necessary site, you can do a restore of that particular item, subsites, as well as resources and all of their content back to the original location and downloading those locally. Next, we'll take a look at some of those permissions within the console. And we'll go back into my lab for this. And as you can see, under settings here, we have the ability to select specific roles and create new roles for any one of the privileges inside of this console. Whether or not we need to just view reports, be able to restore teams, all the way down to these other administrative permissions for notifications and other administrative tasks that you may need inside of this console. Now, for generic administrative users that would have control and definitive rights, you can sign those here in the admin users. If you do have any type of issues with support tickets or support requests, you can automatically log a support ticket directly by using this button and view the wide knowledge base through this link here. And that's our first-hand look at the console. If you have any questions or if you would like to try this out today, you're welcome to sign up. You can use this link here, and any one of our sales representatives can come forward and help you out to get a live demo. We have this walnut available for you if anyone would like that. And I am happy to ask or answer any questions that you might have coming through here. And remember, we have a $50 gift card on the line for the top asked question.
We do indeed. Thank you so much for that presentation, Corinne. That was absolutely fantastic. I love deep dive demos. I do have a question about one of these shots, though. I was noticing that the big hog of all the storage space on the back end there was Rick Vanover. And I want to say that's not surprising at all that Rick would be the one that's taking up all the space there. And somebody should really talk to him about that. Okay, so that's just a little joke. Rick is an old friend of mine, so.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. He is my manager.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was his editor.
Conversation.
Yeah. I hopefully I can do an event with Rick on one of these days. We need to catch up a little bit. So we have got some great questions coming in, and you are on hand to handle those. So let's get to those now. First question up in the queue right now is from Jeffrey, and Jeffrey wants to know, does Veeam protect D365 CRM data?
I think he means we're referring to the I think if we're referring to Dynamics 365, which I think that is what this is for. At this time, we have it on our list of requests, but we do not have a protection in this case for the Dynamics 365.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, next up. Do Microsoft 365 backup policies have dynamically updating job scopes? That's an interesting one.
Absolutely. If you assign a group to be backed up, we will check that group each time we run the backup process. And if new group members are added, we will back those up.
Okay, excellent. Glad to hear that. Okay, next question. How do I know if backup as a service is right for my organization?
So it really depends on what flavor that you're looking for inside of your backup process, and if you have the overhead to be able to manage your backups on that end. Anytime you put a new software, a new technology, something that you have to manage, if you don't have someone that's the expert in that technology or someone that's able to control and protect it and keep up to date with it, you're always putting yourself at risk of misconfigurations, and misconfigurations can lead to some type of loss in either data or security or violations in some cases of policies. And this makes sense to offload these policies to somewhere else. That's a perfect reason why you would go to something like backup as a service. Another one is just the on-premises footprint to pull down and store Microsoft 365 data is not always plausible for organizations. We've moved into a cloud-first operation for many organizations, and this fits right into that cloud-first initiative for them.
Sure. Another reason to, in my opinion, to consider backup as a service is that backups are just horrible to deal with as an admin. Every admin hates backups. I spent some time in IT way back when, and that is just the worst thing to do. And bringing in a trusted partner who will do it is just so much nicer. Right, because backup jobs are just so unfun to do. So there's a little editorial of mine that I snuck in there. Okay, so got another couple questions. I think we have time for. So Paul wants to know: is Copilot generative AI data among the Microsoft 365 apps data that can be backed up using Veeam Data Cloud? Now, the Copilot is pretty darn new technology, pretty recently released by Microsoft. So I don't know if this is something you can speak to at this point or not yet.
So I will say that Copilot is a very cool technology. It is not yet somewhere or stored in a data entity that is possible to back up at this point. There's a lot of released products from Microsoft that I like. They say that they go to the ether. I know they go somewhere, but they go to a data storage that doesn't have access from an external source other than their APIs that directly access it through the software as a service management planes. That being said, if it ever does open up, that would definitely be among some of our top additions, I think, to our product, quite up there with the Power Platform.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we're just at the beginning of all of this from Microsoft and other companies, all the data generated by AI. So that's going to be something that Veeam, I'm sure, is going to be paying close attention to along with the rest of us in the future. Um,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely.
yeah. So I one more question for you today, Corinne. Really appreciate your insights and time on this. There's a lot of interest in what you've presented, and for someone who wants to take that next step with Veeam right after this event today, what would you recommend they do?
Well, if it's something that they're really interested in, I definitely recommend getting in touch with our sales representative through this link here. And if you didn't know, this platform has one of the coolest things I've seen on any webinar platform that if you hover over the slide that you're seeing in front of you, you can actually click that link and go to the Veeam sales page and start that process today. Now, you're not obligated to buy anything at that point. You can just request a demo. And the other option we have is what's called our Walnut, which is a Walnut software that allows us to create click through demos, like part of what you saw today, which I wanted to show off for you guys a little. So if you want to go through at your own pace, see what it's going to be all about before you get into that conversation, that is also possible.
Awesome. So I'll tell you what I am going to do. Instead of bringing up the slide about the gift card, I'm going to leave this one up here so people have as much time as possible to check that out. Corinne, thank you for being with us today and for just updating us on the exciting stuff that Veeam is doing, the Veeam Data Cloud, which is such an amazing looking product. I've seen a couple of demos on it now, and it looks just so simple and comprehensive at the same time, which is exactly what you want as an admin. Those are the kind of things you're looking for. And thank you for being here and for taking time out of your day to introduce us for those of us who haven't seen it before. Thank you again.
As always, Keith, it was an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy being on here with you guys.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
And with that, folks, as I said, I am going to leave this particular slide up because I want everybody to have a chance to open that QR code with your phone. And I am going to now give away the $250 Amazon gift card as I start to close out this event today. As I mentioned at the beginning, you do have to be present for the entire session to be eligible to win the gift card. And we do have a winner for today. And that winner of the $250 is Abdul Kadir from California. Congratulations to you, Abdul. We will be in touch ASAP to get you your card. And with that, folks, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Veeam and Corinne for making this event possible. It's always so much fun to have them with us. I want to thank you, attendees, for being here, for your interest in the topic, for your great questions today. I so much enjoy being on with you, and I can't wait to see you in the next event. That wraps us for today, folks. Have a great rest of your day.